Hello, welcome to the Living History School. Today we'll be talking about how to track deer, how to hunt deer like the Indians used to hunt deer. Basically, I have on my head basically a cape, or the top part of a deer head, and what they would do is they would actually become like a deer. So in order to become like a deer, they would use the cape of a deer. And we'll take this off my head and show you. Basically, this is just a stuffed deer head. They would take this head and they would stuff it full of grass, and they would wear this on top of their heads. But before they would even go out and dress up like a deer, Native people would go into what's called a sweat lodge, and they would go in there and they would heat up hot stones outside, a volcanic rock in a fire. They'd bring the stones into the sweat house. They would drip water onto the stones, and this would create steam, and this steam would then kind of clean their body. They would scrape themselves with a deer rib and rub various like cedar and other types of plants with kind of aromatic plants on their body. Then they would go out and they would get their hunting gear, and basically their hunting gear would consist of this deer head, this deer cape, which I have over here, just a skin that would go over their shoulders, and then this would go on top of their head. And then you would of course take your quiver with your arrows, and this would go on your back, and you would go out into the brush just like this and sneak up onto the deer. And one way of calling the deer, or calling the biggest buck to come out of the woods, they would take a set of deer antlers, and I'll get these here just a sec here. Take a set of these deer antlers, and they would clack them together. And when you're clacking these two antlers together, what you're doing is you're imitating the bucks during rutting season when they're trying to win over other females for their herd. And so you're kind of making this same noise, kind of rattling the antlers, and this will bring the buck out of the brush and the grass. And when they get close enough, the deer are really curious, and they're trying to figure out what you are, and they would walk up a little closer, and then you would just basically take a quiver, or take an arrow out of your quiver, out of your back. Your foxskin quiver out of your back, goes on your back, and you would shoot the deer. So again, this is how the Native Indian people, at least in Oregon, and probably a lot of parts of the country, hunted deer, was basically becoming the deer. Dressing up like the deer, using the cape of the deer, the head of the deer, and going out and getting really close to the deer. So hopefully you learned a little bit today about how Indian people hunted deer. Thank you for listening to me on my channel, and hopefully you'll subscribe.